Hi everyone, my name is Julie. I go to Brock University. I'm in my third year studying studio art, and I'm a part of the Brock Wellness group, which is making this series of videos promoting health and wellness. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make some small expressionist style kind of paintings. So here are some examples of the paintings that I've made previous to this. So we're just going to work on using form and line just to find forms and see what we can create. So first, let's go over the supplies you're going to need. So obviously you're going to need paint. I'm working with acrylic paint. You can work on different kinds of paint, but just keep in mind that different kinds of paint will require different like supports, like different papers to use, and also different paintbrushes and techniques. So I'm using the Tri-Art just in these tubes. I have red, blue, yellow, white, and black here. I really like to limit my colors when I'm doing these kind of paintings. I think that it really helps you work with just different kinds of colors and just mixing all the colors yourself and seeing what you can create. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be choosing to use mainly blues and maybe a little bit of red, and then white and black to just kind of balance it out. As you can see in the paintings that I showed you before, for this one I worked completely in primary colors, whereas for these ones I kind of used some blue, red, and a little bit of yellow to kind of create these paintings. But black and white are, in my opinion, great colors to use to create a lot of contrast. And now, next, we're going to need some paintbrushes. You're going to want to get some paintbrushes of varying sizes and shapes so that you can really play with the types of lines that you're making. Here I have also some little palette knives. I think I got these from the art store at Brock. And then also foam brushes, which are really fun for different textures and for covering large surfaces with paint. And then I also have these palette knives, which are actually drywalling palette knives, but I've repurposed them to use them for painting, and they're really fun to try and get different textures and also to scrape off paint, so you can actually remove paint to create kind of a different look. And then I just also have just a different variety of big paintbrushes, small paintbrushes, which we're going to play with. And then also make sure you have some nice masking tape. It's always fun to try and tape out different areas so you can peel it back afterwards and you can get some negative space into your paintings, which can be really nice. That's what I did for this one here. I just taped right here, and created kind of this diamond shape, and then I painted these different areas, took off the paint, and got this really nice white area in between. I also would recommend that you get a palette. So I'm using this sort of waxy palette paper that you can buy probably at your Michael's different craft stores, but you can also use a variety of different materials like margarine lids, margarine tubs, different plastic tubs. If you're done using them, you can use that as a palette. Also, glass works really well. It washes pretty nicely, but if you're going to use glass, like say something from your kitchen, just make sure it's something that you don't want to use again, because if you're using paint in it, some paints are toxic. You don't want to be eating off that material, and make sure you're not using any porous materials, which the paint will really stick to. Finally, you want to look at what support you're going to be using. So when I say support, I mean, like, are you going to be using canvas, wood panel, paper? What are you looking at? So I'm using something called Yupo paper, which comes in this fun pad here. It's a synthetic paper that's actually made out of plastic, but it's a little bit more on the pricey end, so this is something to think about, but maybe something not to start off trying. But it is really great for acrylic paint, and I found I've been having a lot of success with it so far. Alright, now that we've got all our supplies, it's now time to start painting. One of the biggest, most important things when you're doing this kind of painting is just try and shut off your mind and just put down layers of paint where you instinctively think to put them down. It's more about just expressing, or like, it's like free painting. You're allowing yourself to follow what your instincts tell you to do. So for example, with this painting, I just started putting down different layers of different colors and just kind of like scraping them onto the page with a palette knife and some paintbrushes. And then once I had done that, I went back in with black and kind of just find what I saw in the paper. And another example of that would be this one. I started with just a black base, and then I added a little bit of white over top just with a palette knife, and then I just started coming in and just painting random shapes with black, and then I added color over top, and it turned into this fun little painting. So try to shut off your mind, just let your mind wander and see what you get. It can be really fun, and sometimes you'll get something that you're not so happy with, which I've had a few of those, but you have to go through the kind of ones that you don't like so much in order to get the ones that you're going to be really happy with. Alright, so I'm going to start off with this fun little small kind of rounded loose brush. I think it gives really nice kind of free flowing forms. And one of the things you really want to think about for this style of painting is organic shapes versus non-organic shapes. So organic shapes are free flowing kind of rounded edges that you would see in, say, example like nature, like leaves and stuff like that. And non-organic shapes would be straight lines, diagonals, rough edges, stuff like that. So you want to kind of make sure that you're trying to get a mix of the two in, as well as a mix of thin and thick paint. So one of the things that we do when we're working with acrylic is we mix in acrylic medium, which makes the paint slightly sheer, so a little bit more transparent. If you don't have acrylic medium at home, you can substitute it with water. I know that sounds really weird, but it's something that my high school art teacher taught me, and it's always just kind of stuck with me. So you can practice and try playing with different types of acrylic medium, or practice putting in more water to get a very thin kind of type of paint that's very runny and will drip down the canvas, or adding no water and trying to get a very like thick layer of paint. Alright, so our first layer of paint is done. It's still wet, so I'm going to be careful with it, but I just added some black to the different areas. My piece of advice would be, if you don't know where to start, just start by looking at the lines that are already there. So here I traced a lot of the different areas where the paintbrush has made like kind of like swoopy marks from the amount of pressure that I was putting on the paintbrush. So I'll kind of give you a close-up. Oh, it's kind of hard to see. You can see that one there, and then this one I outlined where the red and the blue kind of met, and then I kind of just did some little squigglies in the center and just kind of moved my paintbrush around wherever I felt like it should be moved. This one I outlined a bunch of the paintbrush marks again, and then I also highlighted different areas. I blacked out areas around where the paint was really thick, and I thought there was like a really nice texture. You can see there that that one's got kind of like different swirls of blue and white in there. And then I also just did a black border around the edge, and I'll see if that stays or if we like that moving forward. And then this one I just kind of did some downward strokes. I outlined at the bottom where that texture was, almost like a waterfall texture, but I outlined those little rounded areas in black, and I think it looks really cool. And then I just did some downward strokes along with the strokes that were already there, and then I just added in kind of some organic shapes in the center and just kind of squiggled my paintbrush around and followed just kind of whatever I thought looked best, just to see how that looked. So I think moving forward, this one needs a lot more lighter colors, so I think I'll probably go in with white or light blue next. This one probably needs some darker shades, so maybe like a kind of a dark-ish blue. This one, I'm not sure what this one needs yet, but I think I'm probably going to start with white, because that seems right. And then this one, oops, sorry. This one, I'm going to start with white. I think that will look good. This is almost looking like a goldfish to me right now, but we'll see what happens there. Another thing that I always do between different layers, I actually turn the piece of cardboard so I don't get stuck on too much on what I think it looks like at that moment. I kind of follow along with what it's turning into as I turn it. So it allows you to see different things in the paper that you maybe didn't see before. So when you come back, it'll be turned this way. And we'll start from there, just putting on another coat of paint, but for now we gotta let it dry, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. For you, it's no time. Alright, so we're back, the paint has dried, and now I'm gonna apply my white layer. Alright, so now we have our coat of white over top. You can see these have changed quite a bit. I think I maybe added a little bit too much white in here, but that's okay because I'm going to use some different colors moving forward, so it won't stay like that for long. One of the important things to remember while you're going through this is if something's not turning out the way that you like it, just keep going. Just put more and more layers on, and eventually you'll get to something that you are happy with. I think next I'll probably mix maybe a little bit of light blue and some red, and we'll see maybe like a nice pink. We'll see from there. But yeah, I'm just going to start applying multiple colors at once, because now that we have kind of like the whites and blacks, which will give us the majority of our contrast, we're ready to add in some different colors and kind of play with that quite a bit. Okay, so now you can see again the paintings have changed a lot already. I just added some pink in, maybe more than I was originally thinking I was going to add. I think the color palette has already kind of changed, but there's some interesting shapes kind of happening in here. This maybe kind of looks like a little bit like an eye to me. I'm not 100% sure yet. This one, I'm not sure what's gonna happen here, but I'm kind of liking how it's turning out. This one I have no idea what it's gonna be, but I really like this kind of graphic lines at the bottom, and I think whatever this turns into is going to be really interesting. And then up here, it's kind of weird, maybe a little face. This could be a hat, but we'll see. I think I'm going to flip the cardboard all over again, so it'll now be like this again. So they're all upside down, and we're going to start in with some blue again and see what happens. Alright, so that is what they look like with another layer of this light blue color that I mixed here. As you can see, this is getting to be kind of a little character, and there's a little character forming up there. Down here we have something with eyes. This might be a tongue and a mouth. I'm not quite sure yet. There's some nice little designs in the background that are kind of cool. Over here, this might still kind of look like an eye. I'm not 100% sure what's happening over here yet. And over here, maybe this is a character. I think the two eyes. But basically what I'm going to do now is everything has a lot of colored layers over it now, and is kind of lacking a little bit of definition. So I'm going to go back in with some black paint and kind of outline and define some of the different areas, and kind of paint out some of the background that's kind of distracting, in order to kind of bring forward the forms that we've kind of found and kind of created through the painting process. Alright, so now that I've added the black, you can see a lot of the forms are more defined. This I added in quite a bit of black to kind of block out some of the very bright colors. This one is definitely not done still. I'm not 100% sure what it needs yet, maybe some more white, but I think I'm probably going to work on that one later. This one I think is pretty cute, but I think all three of these ones still need some work, so I'll probably just skip ahead to when those are done. But I think this one is definitely done, so I'm going to peel it for you guys now, and then I'll show it to you. and then I'll pop in later with the other 3 finish, and I'll explain what the process is that I went through to get those done. Alright, so this is what it looks like all finished with the tape peeled off. I'm really happy with how graphic the lines are and how dense some of the paint is, so you get a really stark, nice contrast between the blue, the pink, the white, and the black. I think this one is probably the most successful out of the 4 that I did. The other 3 I'm going to go back in, probably add quite a bit of white back into, and maybe some yellow or gold to see what that does. But this one I'm very happy with, and this one is going to be, I'm considering it a finished piece for now. The great thing is about these as well is you can always put them aside and come back to it and see if there's any other work that you want to get done on it. But this is the finished one that I have so far, and I will now skip forward to the other 3 which are now done, to show you guys exactly what I did with them and how they turned out. But I'm not going to be doing time lapses for all of them just because I think that might be kind of boring to watch. But yes, this is the finished piece. I'm super happy with it. It's interesting if you look at the other ones that I've shown you before, how different it is. This one, you can see the paint was much more smoothly put on, whereas this one's got quite a bit of rough. And maybe that's just because I was more thinking about the different lines and stuff when I was working on this one. So one of the fun things about these kind of paintings is you can just kind of turn them around and see which way you like them best. If you ever get bored of them on your wall, just flip it around and change the way that it's viewed, and maybe that'll kind of reignite your interest in it. Awesome, so this is the finished piece. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on Instagram at BLCS Wellness 2021 for lots of different types of videos on different ways that you can stay healthy and well during this global pandemic.